Let's say you are the most locked down of all the parents. You still must have conversations about what they might start seeing. Just like we talk about hormones, just like we talk about those scary, stinky, how babies are made, everything issues. We also have to talk about what this world is going to present to you.
Hey everyone, this is Yvette Hampton. Welcome back to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. I am back with Cindy West, and we're talking about middle schoolers. And if you're listening to this, you might have a middle schooler, or maybe you have an elementary school kid who is moving up. And let me just tell you, if you're like, my kid's in kindergarten or first grade, and it's like going to be years and years down the road, like it's in the blink of an eye. They are going to be middle schoolers. They're going to be teenagers, and you're going to be dealing with all the things that we are dealing with as middle school parents, as high school parents. And so it's good to start preparing yourself now and just praying your way through those years, because man, they can be fun and exciting, but they are hard. So we're here to help walk you through those middle school years. And I'm so thankful that Cindy is with me to do that. Before we get back into our conversation, though, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, BJU Press Homeschool. If you're looking for a great Christian worldview homeschool curriculum, check out bjupresshomeschool.com. They've got trustworthy resources that support your goals for your children and your style of teaching. So whether you're independent learning style or parent-led approach, whatever it is that you're doing, they have something for you, and they will help homeschool your kids with you, not for you, but with you, because it is a team effort, and it's okay to delegate some of these things to, sometimes video. Like we've done video lessons for our kids for some subjects, some years, and that was when we needed those things. And we've done BJU Press video lessons, and they've been great. So they're fantastic. So check them out if you have not yet done so. bjupresshomeschool.com. Cindy, welcome back. Let's keep talking about these funny middle school years.
Okay, let's do it.
As you say in your video training course, the magical, marvelous years of middle school. And that's exactly what they are. They are magical, they are marvelous, and they can make us mad. There's some alliteration for you. They can make us really mad sometimes. But one thing is, I think about, you were talking about personal hygiene in Monday's episode. And I think, and I've shared this with our audience when I did the episode on homeschooling girls, is that personal hygiene. And I love that you have both boys and a girl, because I think you probably have a broader perspective of this than even I do, because I don't have boys, and boys are weird and they have cooties and they smell funny. But how do we help our kids even through that world of like, okay, you have to take a shower because you're stinky, and you have to wash your hair because it's greasy, and helping them learn to be humans that other humans who are walking the earth are not going to want to shy away from because they smell funny or they look funny. How did you walk through that with your kids?
Well, in the last time we talked, we were discussing that sometimes it's difficult to know when your kids are going through hormonal changes until you wake up one day and go, oh, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Well, clues like stinky bodies and greasy hair, those are good clues for you to have, to begin pulling out some of the resources.
Yeah. Where
you say, I'm giving you this book. We're going to read it with dad, or we're going to read it with mom. And we're actually going to address when your hormone, this is what's happening. When your hormones change, you might get stinky. You might have greasy hair, whatever, all kinds of things. Nothing is off limits, remember.
Right.
So I might say something like, normally, when people's hormones start changing, they start showering every day. Do you happen to know why? And they might be like, oh, no, I don't know why. Well, have you ever noticed when mom doesn't shower every day, or when dad doesn't shower every day? You might go past us and we might not smell the best, which of course, mom and dad actually do shower every day, and
right.
They probably haven't ever smelled us. But it's important to say that we might have. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Put yourself in that. And so they might even say, well, no, I've never smelled you stink. And you go, you haven't? Well, there are days that I might stink if I don't take a shower every day. And so as your hormones change, that's a practice that you have to start doing. Oh, and by the way, we start after those showers, we start wearing deodorant because the stinkiest parts of our body are sometimes our underarms.
Mhm.
And this is what deodorant does. And so you actually explain the process of how a deodorant is helping
Yeah.
with a stink. And then, with girls, they're going to start growing hair on their legs that at some point might need to be shaved, or boys grow hair that might need to be shaved, or, the greasy hair. Again, it's sort of have you ever noticed, and you sort of take them into an experience that they may have experienced before with someone else and say,
Yeah.
well, this is why they do this. And it's probably time in your hormone life that you do this. So rather than say, girl, I'm noticing your hair is
Right.
real greasy and it's time, that you just, you bring it up with almost a scientific discussion.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be crazy scientific,
Sure.
but do you remember the hormone things we were talking about? Well, one thing it can do is make your hair really greasy if it's not washed every day or every other day.
Yeah.
And so I bought you some special shampoo, and you get to start doing this now
Yeah.
because you've hit the hormone age. So just really lighthearted, never, ever, ever, ever make them feel bad. Now,
Right.
if you don't catch this early, there might be a child in their life that will be, man, you stink. And so they might come home and go, such and such told me I stink. That made me feel really bad. And you say, oh, you know what? I messed up. I should have been thinking about this because you're getting ready to go through a hormonal change. And one of the first signs is that your underarms need deodorant and you need to shower every day. I am so sorry. That's on me, but we'll get you started today.
Yeah.
And nobody will ever tell you stink again.
Right. Yeah.
So just make them feel so empowered by this hormone change that they're having and that they know the answers of how to help themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think just as we start talking through things little by little with them from the time they're very young, a very brief overview of like how babies are made. But then when they get to these middle school years, you get more, deeply into those conversations. It's the same, I remember with my girls, and I maybe TMI, but I use a very natural deodorant. It doesn't have all the weird chemicals and stuff in it. So like when my girls were young, I could give them a little swipe of deodorant, so that they understand, oh, this is what deodorant does. Or, they might ask, Mom, why are you putting that stuff under your arms? Stuff like that. Like where it just is part of natural life. It's like putting on makeup, and mommy puts on makeup. The little girls want to put makeup on too. And so you put a little bit of blush on their cheeks, a little bit of eyeshadow, and it makes them feel like they're grown up and big. And so when they get to those years, they're like, oh, now I'm big like mom, or I'm big like my big sister or my big brother. And so now I get to do those big people things too. And so, where it's just kind of part of your normal life and you've already kind of prepared them for those things.
Yeah. And you've made such a beautiful connection. So parents naturally, when they have babies, they have toddlers, they have preschoolers, we are naturally including them, especially as homeschoolers, in everyday life where they ask, why are we eating this food? Oh, because this food is healthy for us. And, and you're naturally, why are we folding these clothes? Oh, well, because, and this is no different. It's just that the conversations get a little spicier.
Right.
And if we let go of the embarrassment, then they probably won't feel it.
Sure.
At least as much. They might still feel it, but not as much.
Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely right. When mom is comfortable talking with their kids and dad's comfortable talking with their kids, or at least acting like you're comfortable, whether you are or not, when you act like you're comfortable with it and like it's no big deal, then it becomes much more comfortable for them and not such a big deal. And so on that note, I want to actually talk about social media and how we navigate that with our middle school kids. But first, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Have you tried CTC Math yet with your child? Here's a testimonial from another happy homeschool mom. Amber said, I'm absolutely thrilled with CTC Math. It's a rare find that I've used with my children for more than 5 years now. I have 6 children using CTC Math, and each child has found it easy to navigate and very applicable. Thank you so much for all that you are doing in providing quality math lessons for my children. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com. That's ctcmath.com. Are you looking for a homeschool curriculum that goes beyond textbooks and truly engages your children in the joy of learning? Apologia's award-winning curriculum is written by homeschool parents to specifically meet your needs and captivate your students with hands-on activities and experiments that make learning unforgettable. With an easy-to-follow, open-and-go format, Apologia takes the stress out of planning and provides a simple roadmap that can easily be tailored to your family's needs. Explore live classes or self-paced courses designed to accommodate every student's unique learning style. Elevate your child's education, spark their curiosity, and nurture a lifelong love for learning with Apologia. Discover Apologia today at apologia.com. We are back with Cindy. Okay, I want to talk about the world of social media. And we've done several episodes on social media, but in Monday's episode, you talked a little bit about your son, and he was, doing something on YouTube, and not that he stumbled upon something, but, something popped up, and it's, I don't know, Christian conservative homeschool parents who think that that your kids aren't going to be exposed to certain things. Let me just tell you, you have your head in the sand, because unless you have your kids next to your side 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they are going to be exposed to things. I mean, even in the grocery store, they'll walk by a magazine rack and they're going to see something. They're going to be exposed to things. And so we have to set them up for success when it comes to things like social media. And I agree, I don't consider YouTube social media, but they're getting there to where their friends are going to have social media. They might have social media. How do we help prepare them at these ages where they're so curious about so many things to be able to walk through the world of social media without, becoming damaged in the process of it?
Well, I think in some ways we can only be so careful, because every new year beyond middle school is a new year of independence for our kids.
Yeah.
And they are walking into a world that is quite literally gone mad in many ways. And, way early on when I was homeschooling, I would hear, how we want to protect our kids so much that they are different people when they roll into the world. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I also see the value from experience, from having done this 3 times at this point, in introducing what the challenges are going to be at those. We've been talking a lot about age appropriate levels, and that's going to be different for every child. But when you're thinking about middle school years and beyond, it is time to start talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you introduce it through the lens of Christianity and why certain things need to be left behind, or turned away from, or we need to walk in with trepidation towards something, then they're going to have the why behind doing so. And, in the middle school years, whether you decide social media is a yes or a no, I mentioned in the last episode that my son was just doing some YouTube exploration for a research project he was doing. And somehow, somewhere, YouTube figured out there was probably a younger boy hanging out on YouTube, and certain things started popping up. That's the first time that had happened to me. So of course, as a mom, I was like, what did I just allow to happen?
Yeah.
Again, it wasn't pornography, but it was walking towards that.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad. And I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, just like with anything, you have a talk about it.
Yeah.
If somebody tells your kid their underarm stinks, then you're going to address that. Well, you're also going to address this kind of stuff. So you have to decide what your boundaries are on, do they get a phone? Do they get social media? How much access do they have to YouTube? What do we put on our computers that lock down certain things? And let's say you are the most locked down of all the parents. You still must have conversations about what they might start seeing. Whether a friend is, let's say they're playing basketball on a homeschool basketball league. It's a Christian coach, it's Christian parents, but one of those kids has access to social media and they're in the locker room and he or she goes, look what I just found.
Yeah.
You've locked down the best you can, and yet there it still is in front of their face. So just like we talk about hormones, just like we talk about those scary, stinky, how babies are made, all the everything issues. We also have to talk about what this world is going to present to you.
Yeah.
In the last episode, I mentioned a book called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures.
Mm-hmm.
That was a gentle way for me to say, listen, whether you're in Walmart and a Cosmopolitan is sitting right in front of your face,
Mm-hmm.
or a kid shows you something in the basketball locker room, or you're on YouTube researching this thing and YouTube throws up an ad, there are going to be times that these things are thrown in front of your face. And here's why they do it. And really, honestly, again, age appropriately,
Yeah.
say, this is why people in the world are putting this out there.
Yeah.
And this is why Christians need to be very careful.
Right.
So it goes back to the same discussion we've been having. From stinky armpits to social media. It's all about honesty and open conversations. And my belief, and I've done that. So my first child was way more sheltered. Let's call it sheltered than my second. And he was more sheltered than my third.
Yeah.
And I feel like it wasn't because I've lacked in parenting. I actually think it's because I'm becoming a better parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, oh, no. Such and such probably needed to know a little bit more before they were out in the world.
Yeah.
And so I am earlier, not too early, but earlier having conversations about what they might come upon in the world.
Yeah.
And you know what? When we think about apologetics, are we not doing the same thing with the Bible? Are we not saying this is a conversation you're going to hear and this is how you defend that conversation?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's the exact same premise. This is something you might see in the world. This is something you might hear in the world. And this is your answer to that.
Yeah.
So you can almost think of it as, what could we name that? Let's give it a name. It's not apologetics. Just, I don't know, preparation for the ornery stuff that they're going to face in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's come up with a good name for that.
Right. Yeah. Let's transition into talking about friends, because this is a time I've learned with my girls, and it was for me too, as I look back to my middle school years, where friendships really, really change in a lot of ways, because you go from like play dates and playing on the playground and playing with dolls and maybe, playing army men, or playing war with your friends if you're a boy, playing house if you're a girl, doing those types of things, to a completely different world of friendship for middle schools. And they're trying to figure out how to be good friends, and they're trying to figure out how to have good friends. We pray for our girls still all the time, daily.
Mm-hmm.
God, protect their hearts, protect their minds, their bodies, their souls, and bring them good Christian friends, but also help them to be good Christian friends. And I think it's important. And it's so funny because so much of this conversation that we're having goes back to having conversations with our kids and talking them through these things. There's a lot of talking that goes on in these middle school years, because you have to help them think logically through, is that person a good friend? There's been times with my girls where somebody will come into their world and, I'll get to know that girl and just say, I'm just going to caution you. I see some tendencies in that girl that might be a little bit toxic and dangerous. And so just be careful, instead of saying you can't be friends with her.
Yes.
But just cautioning them and then giving them the reasons why. Here's what I'm seeing, and here's why I'm cautioning you against that. And every time, without fail, every single time, those girls have turned out to not be good friends. They will hurt my daughters in one way. And it might not be anything major, but in one way or another, they will prove themselves as somewhat toxic.
Yes.
Maybe they're okay to be friends with someone else, but not with you. So how did you, and I want you to talk about this from both the boy and girl perspective, because I know it's different for boys than it is for girls, but how do we walk through these friendship years of them learning how to have and be good friends from both the perspective of boys and girls?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So you've already said it, having the conversations.
Yeah.
if your home is a culture of conversation,
Yeah.
you are going to be so blessed by your children and by the decisions they make. So open conversation. You mentioned the word, we need to logically think through things. And I know we're going to talk about academics soon,
Yes.
but this is a really, really important time. Their minds at this age are finally ready to be trained in logical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So actual logical thinking curriculum helps build those muscles
Yeah.
so that they learn to be discerning.
Yeah.
And I mean, even something like the fallacy detective.
Yeah.
Which used to be a Christian curriculum. I'm not so sure it is anymore. If you can get an older version of that,
Yeah.
it's
I have the
probably
old version.
better.
Has it changed?
I feel like it has. I
Okay.
did a little middle school group. I had one of my sons and a few of his friends over, and we
Okay.
did that together.
Yeah.
And they had online new versions.
Oh,
And I had the old one, and we're reading things, and it felt like some of the Christianity had been stripped out of it. So
interesting.
I don't know what's up
Okay.
with
Yeah.
that.
We have the old version and it's
Yeah, but
pretty
check
solid.
it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it may or may not be a bad thing that the changes, I don't know.
Yeah.
But introducing that helps build some logical thinking muscles.
Sure.
And then we specifically did friendship Bible study curriculum. Again,
Oh,
this has been a long time
yeah.
ago. So I don't necessarily remember the titles. I know for my daughter, we did a little, I'm getting ready to say a little girls group. It wasn't a little girl. It was middle school girls,
Mhm.
but it was a small group of them. So a small group
Yeah.
of middle school girls at church. And we
Okay.
actually went through this. It was called something about godly friendships for
Okay.
girls or something like that. And it was great at defining biblically what a good friend looks like, both in yourself and for the people that you're going to be close friends with.
Yeah.
And then boys, I know I specifically did a Bible study with the boys individually. So my husband would do Bible study things with the kids too. We would all do Bible
Sure.
together. But when he would leave, we would sometimes dig in really deep with some stuff.
Yeah.
I cannot remember what I used with the boys. But
Okay.
again, it was something like manhood, and it had a whole section on friendships.
Yeah.
So my point in this is not that you necessarily need to use the resources I used, but go look for some Bible curriculum that talks about teens
Yeah.
and tweens making good godly friendships.
Yeah.
And then this is the time when you really start talking about the difference between a close friend and an acquaintance,
Yeah.
and how we're told by the Lord to be very careful that our friends, our real true friends, are iron sharpening iron people.
Yeah.
And what and then defining what that means.
Yeah.
And then when you need to talk about, I see something in this young lady that I'm concerned about.
Mhm.
There will be language behind that because of some study that you guys have done together
Yeah.
about biblically what you're seeing that could be some rotten fruit.
Yeah.
Or that you don't see evidence of the fruits of the spirit.
Right.
Or, just whatever
Yeah.
it is, but you'll have pre-language.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I would start these Bible studies on the idea of friendships early, by 5th grade.
Yeah.
And then do more than one.
Right.
I mean, it never hurts to continue talking about this.
Yeah. I've never done a Bible study, a friendship Bible study with my girls, but we always have this open communication. As a matter of fact, just last night, I was talking with one of my daughters about a friend who's, she's not a horrible friend, but she's also not a great friend. And, but my daughter's been hurt by her on a number of occasions. And I just said, it's not worth ending the friendship.
Yeah.
Take the friendship when it's available. You guys enjoy hanging out together when you hang out. But the good thing about that, and not that we ever want our kids to be hurt. I said, but the good thing is you're learning how not to be a bad friend.
Yeah.
You're learning how to be a good friend, and you are learning what is hurtful. So
Yes.
don't do those things to your friends.
Yeah.
If you want to be a
And
good
that's
friend, sometimes,
perfection.
Right. We learn
Yeah.
from others. And not that this other girl is trying to be hurtful. It's just, I think she's just careless sometimes with the friendship. And so,
And she may very well be learning how to be a friend
sure.
too.
Yeah.
And that's something I
absolutely.
try to encourage kids. And I know
Right.
we're probably running short on this, but I think there's something really, really important. One of my kids was different in some ways than the rest of the homeschool community that we were hanging out with.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with either group.
Right.
People just tend towards some people like this and some people like this. And in the middle school years, it can be difficult to make a close friendship when you have interests that are different.
Right.
So for this particular child, I thought, of course, I prayed about it.
Right.
Lord, what do you want me to do? Could you please send some friends that have more towards what his passions are?
Yeah.
And it was real interesting. You know what? I'm just going to say, because everybody's going to know who knows anything about our life. We started, it was about this time that this kid started guitar lessons, and he took to guitar. It was just like, what? He was made to hold a guitar in his hand.
Yeah.
And so it ended up through various situations that he ended up playing guitar at the adult services at our church. And do you know who became some of his best friends? The adult band members.
Right.
So the people, the drummer, the singer, the music minister, all of these people, he had this friend group. And of course, we didn't allow him to go out with adults.
Sure.
So don't think that. But in going on Sunday mornings and playing music with these people, and they were so encouraging towards his musical abilities and so on and so forth, he had an unlikely group of people who became his friends and mentors, so that even when it wasn't quite jiving with his age group of people, he still didn't have to feel completely alone, that nobody else in the world knew music like this or had any interest in knowing music like this. But those people did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So this can be an awkward time.
Yeah.
For friendships, and don't discount that friendships can be everywhere. My daughter made friends with an 85-year-old lady who taught her how to knit.
Yeah.
And that was a really great friendship.
Yeah.
So, look outside the box is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And be there to listen to them when they need to just cry on your shoulder and talk through it. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to give them all the advice and all of the answers, but sometimes they just need us to be there to listen, because here's what I have found that happens too, is if we're not there to listen to them, they go to their friends and it ends up turning into gossip. And so as their parents, we need to be the ones who are like, okay, tell me what's going on. Tell me why you were hurt, and let's work through this together. Yeah. Because then that starts all the drama, and she said this and he said that. And oh my dear, it can be really, really hard. So, oh man. Okay. We are out of time again. We are going to talk about academics tomorrow. And what does it look like to homeschool a middle school kid? You guys, don't give up. If you've got a middle schooler and it's just hard, don't give up on them because they're at an awkward phase. It's going to be okay. You're going to get through these years. And in the end, hopefully you will have put in the work that is necessary, and the prayer and the time and all the effort, and it will end up being a really good thing for you and your relationship with your kids. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Cindy, tell our audience one more time where they can find all things Cindy West.
Okay. OurJourneyWestward.com.
All right. We will put those links in the show notes. And again, we'll try to put links to the books that Cindy has mentioned, and there's lots of resources for middle school kids, as well as Cindy's video training course that she has. It's like a masterclass on her website called The Magical Marvelous Years of Middle School. So we'll put a link to that as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. You guys, thank you for listening. Stay tuned at the very end to hear a clip of what's coming up next on the podcast. We love you so much, and we are so grateful for you. If there's anything that we can pray about for your family, you can always drop us an email at podcast@schoolhouserocked.com. If you've not seen the movie yet, go to our website. You can watch it for free, schoolhouserocked.com, and share that with your friends. Have a great rest of your day. We will see you back here tomorrow. Bye.
Laughing in the face of imposter syndrome and coming to you from the epicenter of manly overconfidence, I'm your host, Garrett Hampton, and you are listening to The Thinking Dad.
even if we're able to push the evildoers and the totalitarians back for another generation, maybe if we work really hard, maybe even 2 generations, if they've got the young people, it's over.
I often think about Daniel's parents, who you don't hear anything about. But they must have laid down the foundation for Daniel to be able to go into Babylon and not fall.
We're in that very beginning part of the cycle for tough times. We've been fat and happy. We've been enjoying we're lazy because we enjoy so much freedom. We got all these blessings, and why would you go do the hard work? And so for a long time now, decades, we haven't had to do the hard work. We've been living on the fumes of previous generations paying the price. And we got to raise the bar and say, I'm willing to give more of my life, that's my time, more of my money, of course, that's our fortune, and more of my sacred honor, which is my reputation. I'm willing to put it all on the line. Every single one of us has to be willing to do that.
Join us for the first season of The Thinking Dad at thinkinggdad.net.
I want to challenge you that you have this area of your child's life. They're going through so many changes, and you're building the most intimate relationship that you have up to this point by talking about things like stinky armpits and all of that. So you're thinking, okay, my role is changing, so that must mean school has to change too. And I'm going to start turning as much as I can over to them. But here's my challenge to you. You already are working towards building this fantastic relationship with them so that no holds are barred on the conversations about hormones and friends and all the things we've already talked about. Think of school as an opportunity to further that understanding of themselves and their independence in learning.